Fresh off an upset victory over Purdue, Indiana basketball ramps up their high school recruiting and could get a four-star commitment today.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the nation's #1 sports podcasting network here at Locked On, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Well, it's all basketball on today's show as Indiana takes down Purdue. If you missed our live show from last night, we got some segments of that for you in raw reaction of Indiana taking down Purdue, how they did it, what it means, and how the Hoosiers can build on that moving forward. But they're definitely building on it and definitely doing it in the high school rankings as the Hoosiers are trying to land a four-star commitment today on Wednesday, January 28th. You may have seen it by now if it does come to fruition, but definitely wanted to talk about this since football has dominated the headlines. Indiana basketball has still been putting in the work on the recruiting trail. And I want to ask you, if you're a longtime Indiana basketball fan, what's been the problem with head coaches at Indiana other than the obvious of they can't win basketball games? Why is that? Why have they not been able to win? It's because they haven't been able to recruit. They haven't gotten the talent here to Indiana, to IU, to Bloomington to compete with Purdue and Michigan in those teams across college basketball. Darren DeVries is trying to change that with two big commits already in the 2026 class and trying to land another one today. Trevor Manhertz is a four-star commit, four-star recruit in the 2026 class. He is awesome. Okay, this guy 6'8" as a wing. He shoots it like a guard. He handles it like a guard, but he can post up and play as a physical big when you need him to. This is somebody that you want on your basketball team. Okay, 6'8", 185 pounds. He's originally from Cary, North Carolina. He's a 2027 guy. 2027 guy who could be joining you for your upcoming high school recruiting class. One who is ranked basically top 65, top 70, no matter where you look. 247 has him as a ranked 63rd in the country, the 16th ranked small forward in the nation. And it's basically down to three schools. His decision comes this afternoon: Louisville, Duke, or Indiana. And those are three pretty good schools to be a part of right now on the recruiting trail if you're the Indiana Hoosiers, because this is one that you have been after for a long time. And this is a type of commitment that you simply haven't got in quite some time, and one that you absolutely would love to receive. He shoots the ball incredible. He finds open pockets on the floor. Again, he handles the ball like a guard as well, and one that I think would fit perfectly in the Indiana offense. He's a 2027 guy, but he's planning on being in that 2026 class. So you got to kind of get the language right there and kind of get all that figured out. But he is a 2027 kid. They're planning on him being a 2026 high school recruit, which he would be able to join Prince Alexander Moody, who's been a longtime Indiana commit, and Vaughn Karvala, who's the 50th ranked player, who's another wing type of guy. So you add those three to your recruiting class, plus a big name in 2027 as well, and Indiana's off to a nice start under the Darren DeVries era. And you start winning games against Purdue and big teams in the Big Ten, that will start to help you in the high school recruiting rankings. But again, Manhertz is somebody, he loves to shoot the three. He loves to create his own shot. And I think defensively is very underrated for him. A guy that's 6'8", his wingspan is ridiculous, and he can basically get to any ball. He's never really out of a play. That's what I like about this guy. That's what jumps off the film to me on the defensive end of the floor for Manhertz is the idea that he's never dead. He's never dead to rights. He's never truly beat on a play. he can always find a way right back in it. You get that with the offensive ability that he has. And if Indiana looks to run this style of offense moving forward, I don't expect them to change it by any means. You just get younger, hungrier players that you are able to mold a little bit more than the ones you have right now. Then you feel like the offense is going to be in a pretty darn good spot. You still got to go get bigs. There's no doubt about it. But man, what a recruiting win that this would be for Indiana. He's already received several crystal balls to pick Indiana. So the idea here, I feel good about it, that he picks Indiana. It's high school recruiting. You never know until you know. Even a commitment doesn't mean much nowadays. And given what's going on across college football with Darian Mensah and Devon Williams and whoever else, right? Even a signature doesn't mean everything in today's world of college athletics. But I really feel good about where the Hoosiers stand with this guy who could step in and be your best shooter as a freshman next season. Karvala's a pure scorer. He's a shooter too. Prince Alexander Moody, more of your three, could play the four. I know he's a guard, but you could play him at some different spots. But this guy could play that 3 or 4 as well. That's, again, you are kind of going after some dudes here who are flexible. 6'8", 6'4", 6'6". Like, you're talking about legitimate size, ball handling, shooting ability, moving without the basketball, team player type of guys. That's who Indiana's after in the 2026 class. So I feel good about this. I think he would absolutely load this thing up. I don't think Indiana's done. I think Indiana's continuing to go after some big names. You had a big recruit on campus last night for the Purdue game. You'll continue to bring in some big names with some big games remaining on your schedule. But this would be a nice win for Darren DeVries in Indiana. You would feel so good about your 2026 class that you could still add to, right? And then you hope to retain a guy like Trent Sisley. You hope to retain a couple of other guys, especially with some injury things. You still have some dudes who have not really played on this year's team that will be eligible for 1, 2, or even more years after that. And then you're going to have to hit the transfer portal as well. But I feel good about Trevor Manhertz. I think this is one that Indiana has locked down. I think they've secured it. I think he will commit to Indiana here on this Wednesday and will 100% boost your 2026 recruiting class. Well, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, again, we talked last night after Indiana beat Purdue inside of Assembly Hall. We have that for you coming up next on this episode of Locked On Hoosiers.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. The WNBA has released its 2026 schedule featuring a 44-game regular season beginning on Friday, May 8th. The league's historic 30th season includes expansion teams Portland Fire and the Toronto Tempo, with opening weekend highlights such as Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever hosting Paige Beckers and the Dallas Wings, and a rematch of the 2025 finals between the Aces and the Mercury. And unrivaled, Miami felt the breeze as Paige Beckers powered the breeze to a 75-68 win over the Lunar Owls, finishing with 28 points and 7 assists. She was joined by 20-year-old Dominique Malunga, who added 21 points, 8 rebounds, and became just the second player to ever dunk in an unrivaled game. In college hoops, South Carolina handed Vanderbilt its first loss of the season with a dominant 103-74 win. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
How about those Indiana basketball Hoosiers? They take down Purdue in the first matchup of the season, 72-67 final score. Indiana takes down the Boilermakers. I am in shock. I'm in shock. I can't believe it. I cannot believe they found a way to get it done. They made it interesting. They dramatized, or, they made it stressful down the stretch, but Indiana gets the win 72-67. And oh my gosh, what a win for this Indiana basketball team. We told you today on the main show, this type of a win could turn around the season. This type of a win could change everything. It could prove to us that Indiana was good enough to beat good teams. I think they did that tonight. It gives you your first quad one win, which you have to make the NCAA tournament, and Indiana got that tonight. And correct me if I'm wrong here, ladies and gentlemen, it just looked different. It looked different. It felt different. It was different for this Indiana team. 67 is the score for Purdue. 72 is the score for the Hoosiers. Indiana wins this basketball game in front of an awesome crowd at Assembly Hall. Shout out to the Indiana fans who braced the cold, braced the weather, and showed up and supported this basketball team, and the Hoosiers win 72-67. We're going to break it all down here on today's show on this live edition of Locked On Hoosiers. We're going to break down the stat sheet. We're going to break down the trends. We're going to break down likes and dislikes. We're going to do it all here on this episode. And shout out Indiana, dude. Shout out to this team, because I didn't pick them. I didn't pick them to win this game. I said, heck no. I said, when Indiana shows me they can play good basketball for 40 minutes against a competent opponent, then I'll buy in. Then I'll believe it. Then I'll pick you to start winning these types of games. But we hadn't seen it yet. We've seen 20 minutes of good basketball. We've seen 30 minutes of good basketball. We've even seen close to 35 good minutes of basketball. But Indiana, against a team with a pulse, has not put together a full 40 minutes yet this season. Was tonight a great 40 minutes? No. It was a pretty darn good 20. It was an okay 30 and 35. There were some stretches in there, especially in that second half, that got super dicey. But you found a way to win. You completed the win. You got it done. Even after you blew a 14-point lead with less than 10 minutes to play, you still found a way to get it done. Indiana needed this. Darren DeVries needed this. The fan base needed this. For Indiana basketball, I know we've been celebrating football. We've been having a great time with that, but it's basketball season now. And Indiana fans needed something to reignite them with this team, with this new organization that we're watching. Tonight was that night. 72-67, Indiana takes down Purdue. And folks, that's a good Purdue team. That's a top 15 Purdue team. That's one that I know that they're reeling right now, clearly, and they did not play their best basketball tonight by any means. That's still a team I think has every opportunity to make a run at the Final Four. I still think they're that talented. I think they're that good. And Indiana outplayed them for 40 minutes tonight. And guess what? On both ends of the floor, Indiana beats Purdue by shooting the ball well and getting stops defensively, forcing turnovers, grabbing rebounds, getting up and down the floor. Sure, there were some open baskets that Purdue had, and they made some tough shots. They're a good team. They're going to do that. But Indiana didn't fold. Indiana didn't crumble like we've seen them do time and time again this season. That was the difference tonight. That was the difference, right? When something went wrong, Indiana didn't say, well, I guess it's over. I guess we're going to lose. No, they said, let's go make another play. Let's get back on the other end of the floor and see how we can make up for that. That was the difference tonight, was Indiana's mentality, was Indiana's effort, going after rebounds, going after loose balls, most of the defensive plays. Indiana's mentality was the difference this evening. You score 40 in the first half, just 32 in the second half. Your offense was great in the first 20 minutes. You get out to an 11-point lead. We knew it was going to cool off, right? We knew it was going to happen. It was inevitable. That's how this team works. That's how most shooting teams go. You weren't going to shoot 55, 56%, whatever it was, in in the second half the way you did in the first half. Just wasn't going to happen. But could you find ways to score? Could you find ways to still put it in the bottom of the basket? There was a big stretch in there. What was it, 4 or 5 minutes that Indiana didn't hit a field goal? You got to the free throw line several times and left them short on 1-and-1s and had every chance, or gave Purdue every chance to win this game. And yet you still found ways to win. Let's dive into some of the numbers here on what was an incredible basketball game to watch. Loved watching this. This felt like Indiana and Purdue. I think Assembly Hall was a big difference. We'll talk about that, likes and dislikes, coming up in the next segment. Lamar Wilkerson did what he did. 19 points, 7 of 18 from the floor. 3-point shooting was poor, but guess what? He finally quit shooting them. He got downhill. He got to the lane. He found other ways to score. That's what good players do. He also had 7 boards, 3 assists. He did have 3 turnovers, 3 of just the 8 for Indiana in this game. That's a miracle in itself for Indiana. Nick Dorn, what a guy. What a guy. Gets the start again, steps in, and has 18 points, most of those coming in the second half. Hit a couple of just stupid threes in this game. He has quickly become one of Indiana's go-to guys offensively, and you rely on him now, and he gives you 18, 6 of 11 from the floor, 4 of 9 from downtown. Also had 2 rebounds in there as well. And then everything else was just kind of a big pot of stuff, like a big stew, if you will. Reed Bailey. Applaud for Reed Bailey. One of the best games he's played in the last, 2 months probably. 9 points, 3 of 4 from the floor, 3 of 5 from the free throw line, only 2 rebounds, but I don't care. He scored, right? He scored. I don't know what Purdue was doing, but they made him look like he played real basketball. And Reed Bailey put in 9 big points that Indiana had to have. You get 9 points from Tucker DeVries, most of that coming in the first half. He was still big in the second half. How about 9 points, 10 rebounds for Tucker? If you're not going to score, do something else. I've always said that in basketball. If you're not going to score, do something else. We know it ain't going to be defense for the most part for Tucker DeVries. So he said, cool, I'll get rebounds. He had 10 of them tonight. Goes along with 3 assists and just the 1 turnover for Tucker DeVries. Connor Enright, I got to say it. I have to, because I am the hardest person on him on the offensive end of the floor. That 3 that he shot on the dribble drive from Tucker DeVries, kick out for Enright, he was so open, the basketball gods would have been bad. They would have been mad if he didn't shoot it. But he didn't even hesitate. A guy that shoots what? What's his official 3-point percentage? I want to look this up going in or even coming out of this game. What is his official 3-point percentage before I totally dunk on this guy? 33%. Is what Connor Enright shoots from behind the arc. He gripped and ripped that thing like he shoots it at 60%, dude. He did not hesitate at all, and he buried it. Purdue had gotten back within 2. They were feeling it. They were clapping, smacking the floor. They were doing it all. Connor Enright said, cool, watch this, and buried that 3 from the left wing, and that was the dagger to take down Purdue. He has 8 points, 2 rebounds. How about 8 assists for Connor Enright as well? If you're not going to score, do something else. And that's what Connor Enright did. He had a good defensive game as well. Josiah Miles gives you 5. Sicily, again, not a huge impact in this game. Missed that 1 corner 3 late. Sam Alexis had just the 2 points. He wasn't a huge factor here either. But you win this thing 72-67. Hoosiers take down the Boilermakers in the biggest win of the season. You can turn things around starting right now and build on this for the rest of the season and the rest of the campaign. We'll talk about more stats. We'll talk about how Indiana can build on this, plus likes and dislikes coming up in the final segment on this Locked On Hoosiers episode. So stick around. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, man. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, it can be hard. It can kind of not be so simple, right? And that's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without all the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with you, the fans. I pulled up Game Time, right, for all these different NBA games going on across the country. You could pick an upcoming game all the places you want to go, any arena in the country, they're going to have tickets for you, and they're also going to have the best prices. And some of my favorite features is the all-in pricing, so you know exactly what you're going to pay at checkout. There's no surprise fees, no jumps right before you hit pay. And you also can see your view from your seat before you make the buying decision. So you know what you're going to see when you get there, and there's no surprise when you do. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Go to gametime.co, okay? Be sure you check that out, or you can download the Game Time app. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers also brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This Super Bowl 60 and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same game parlay, this is the game that everyone's been waiting for. This is where the predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels so much bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting, more than just the kickoff and all the way through the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and you're going to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics, as Indiana takes down Purdue 72-67 inside of Assembly Hall. Hoosiers get their biggest win of the season, and it could not have come at a better time. 14-7 now on the season are the Indiana Hoosiers. You get a huge win in Big Ten play to bring you back to 500, 5-5 on the season, going through one of your toughest stretches of the entire campaign this season. And I want to go back to some of these team stats, because as great as the offensive performance was, right? You put up 72 points, most of that coming in the first half. The shooting numbers ended up being solid for the game as a whole. Can we just respect the fact that Indiana played maybe its best defensive game of the season tonight? 67 points you gave up to that Purdue team, one that has put up 80s and 90s consistently this season. And you found a way to get stops. Did they miss some shots tonight? Yeah, they did. Did they find something going down the stretch with the two-man game of Braden Smith and TKR that Indiana couldn't stop? Yeah. Did Indiana have poor communication at times on defense and not know who to stop, whether it was the ball or a shooter? Yeah, that was frustrating. But guess what? You didn't let it burn you. You didn't let it bury you. You didn't let it crush you in your own gym. You just ran to the other end of the floor and found a way to get a bucket, found a way to stop the bleeding and not let it pile on. That was the difference tonight for Indiana. Moving the ball offensively and bouncing back defensively, man. This team, against all odds, Indiana wins this game as the underdog on our home floor. You end up shooting 46% for the game. Purdue actually shot it better than you tonight, 48% as a team. Indiana shoots 36% from three. Purdue shoots it at 35. The difference is you shoot 33 of them and make 12. They shoot 20 and make just 7. 14 of 19 at the free throw line was Indiana. Only 53% for Purdue, 8 of 15 at the line. They had 10 turnovers. You had just 8. Told you about the rebounding numbers in our Mazda read. You get out rebounded by 5. But how about this? How about points in the paint? A category we thought Indiana would just get murdered in, and they competed. They didn't win it, but they competed. You lost by only 6 in that category. That's fine. That's okay. Reed Bailey stepped up and played one of his better games of the season, and Sam Alexis was non-existent on the offensive end of the floor. Oh, by the way, didn't even mention this in the first segment. How about the fact that Tayton Connerway didn't play tonight? Tayton Connerway wasn't there. A guy that normally starts for you. He didn't start a couple of days ago because of Nick Dorn, and he probably was not going to start in this game either. But somebody that can give you 8, 10, 12 points, 2, 3, 4 rebounds, 3, 4, 5 assists a game, didn't even play tonight. So your small rotation, your short rotation that you're already using, just went down another man. You had, let me look at this for a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You had 7 guys record significant minutes tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4. You had 5 players play more than 20 minutes tonight. Sam Alexis played 14. Josiah Miles played 15. Trent Sisley played 3. You had 5 players go for more than 20 minutes. Connor Enright didn't come off the floor. He played all 40 minutes, according to Stat Broadcast. He played all 40 minutes. Wilkerson played 36. DeVries played 35. Nick Dorn played 32. That's absurd. That's absurd. And yet you still out physical, out hustle, and outperform that Purdue team tonight. Indiana, they deserve to be celebrated here. This is your best win of the season, the best win of the DeVries era so far, and you're 1-0 against your rival. Talk about how awesome that is, right? Some of the other stats here really quickly. Indiana had 16 assists on 23 made baskets. Can't overlook and overstate how big that is. And Indiana led for most of this game. You led for 31 minutes of this game, man. Indiana looked good tonight. They looked like a team who's ready to compete. And if you can get this night in and night out, you're still not going to win every game. But man, that's a whole lot better than what's been happening, because you didn't just live and die by the 3. You didn't just say, if we shoot 60%, we'll win. But if we don't, you better watch out, because we can lose to anybody. They didn't do that. They said, we're going to win this game no matter what it takes. We're going to give everything we have to beat Purdue and win this game. I don't care that they're a top 15 team. I don't care that it took everything we had to win it. That's called sports. That's called basketball. That's what you're supposed to do. Will they beat us by 20 at their place? I don't know, maybe. Who cares? You're a winner tonight in a big way, and one that you so desperately needed, given what your schedule looks like coming up, right? You prepare to go out west this weekend. You take on UCLA on Saturday, USC next midweek. I don't know if that's Tuesday or Wednesday. I think that's Tuesday, but I don't know. Come home for Wisconsin, home for Oregon, at Illinois, at Purdue. That's your next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's your next 6 games. But you finally pick up a signature win, a quad 1 win, a tournament resume building win. Let me say that again. Indiana just picked up a tournament resume building win. A win that you can now go to the committee in March, if you're around the bubble, in or out, whatever, and say, remember that win? Yeah, you need to respect that one. Doesn't matter that it was on your home floor. You beat a top 15 team. Indiana needed it, and Indiana got it. Let's do quick likes and dislikes here. There's a ton of you in the comments. I appreciate we got a ton of you here in the show right now. Got a bunch of people in the comments as well. Again, I just, it just looked different. It just looked different, man. It felt different. It is different, and it shows that this team has what it takes to win big games. Likes and dislikes for me, again, we kind of hit these at the end of every show. We also have kind of hit them along the way. Getting production from Wilkerson, Nick Dorn. I mean, if you continue to get big minutes out of him and big scoring out of him, it'll be impossible to keep that guy off the floor. Shout out to Tucker DeVries for not shooting like crazy, realizing he wasn't the go-to scoring option, but finding other ways to make an impact, dude. 10 rebounds, 3 assists. That's unbelievable for him. So shout out to him. Reed Bailey, again, I mentioned it. 9 big points tonight. You had to have them or else you lose the game. So when's the last time we said that Reed Bailey's performance won you the basketball game? Been forever since we've said that. Connor Enright, the big time 3 man. He plays great defense. He plays hard. He got his teammates involved and he had a good game tonight. He did, and never came off the floor, bro. That's absurd, dude. That's actually crazy. Defensively for Indiana, you I was going to say you didn't get caught up in the emotions, but I think you did. I think this Indiana team did get caught up in the emotions. I think they fed off of it. And I think it helped them get to the win. I said I wanted to shout out Assembly Hall, and I will. Man, the fans showed up. They showed up, and it helped. It was a big reason why Indiana won this game tonight. And now you start to look forward on what Indiana is able to do. I mean, you have, at least for me, I have a totally different outlook on this team now. Totally different. I don't think you can erase what has happened up to this point because this team is still who they are, right? They still have some of those bad tendencies. But I do think tonight this team showed they have the ability to buckle down and win a game. Ugly, low scoring, grind it out, right? Some of the stats here quickly for Purdue players just to give you an idea in case you haven't looked at it. TKR, I mean, he got his 23 points, only 3 rebounds though, so you didn't get crushed there. Cox with 8, Lawyer with 8, Braden Smith 14 and 5. You limited him, brother. You limited him 14 and 5. That is a win for me. Also, him going 2 for 8 from downtown. That's a win in itself as well. Oscar Clough, non-existent. 2 points, 6 boards, whatever. You held him in check too, and they had a bunch of other guys with a bucket or 2 in there. So you limited their big, their big 3, their big 4 between Lawyer, Smith, Kaufman, Wren, and Oscar Clough, and you found a way to win. And Indiana can now build on this going out west this weekend. Then you return home for a couple of games. You got to see this Purdue team in a couple of weeks. Can you build on this? Can you start to string wins together? Because it looked different tonight. And Indiana just got the win. Maybe it needed. Maybe it was looking for this. To have a little bit of a spark for DeVries to get over the hump, right? He's 1-0 against Purdue. How awesome is that? And for this team to finally start believing in itself. 72-67 final score. Indiana beats Purdue in round 1 of this incredible matchup and this rivalry in college basketball. Hoosiers back in action Saturday on the road at UCLA, 5 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Central. You have a chance to go on a little run here if you're Indiana, but you pick up your biggest win so far of the season. Thank you so much for being here on this edition of Locked On Hoosiers. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. You follow us on your audio podcasting platforms. Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments. We'd love for you to chime in on this conversation. Let us know how you feel about Indiana getting their biggest win of the year, taking down Purdue inside of Assembly Hall. Okay, we're back tomorrow for a full episode, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.